Thanks so much for listening to No Lions Here with me, Big Panda. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to No Lions Here. My name is Big Panda, and I'm a recovering sex addict. On today's episode, we have in the studio with us, he's actually always in the studio with us, just behind the scenes. This is my good friend, my business partner. He is a PhD in biochemistry through the University of USC. Kyle.
Hey.
What's up, man? Hey, thanks so much for coming on, man. We've talked about you coming on for a while now. And we've actually got, so we probably won't get into it too much in this episode, but we've got so Kyle's a scientist. And so also he's so much more than that. But so we're going to be digging into like some of the science behind addiction and anxiety and depression and some of these just different disorders and get kind of his take on the science of that. So this is kind of like an introduction and, just seeing what we'll get into on this episode.
Great to be here.
Yeah, man.
Excited for a new segment.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, because, I've been talking about wanting to do different series for the podcast, whether that be steps and you actually kind of brought this one to me and we're like, hey, kind of taking after Huberman a little bit.
Do a little journal club and read some articles, discuss it. We'll hear it from the scientific side and then the recovery side and, just so that a better understanding around some of this stuff. Maybe that's something I can bring to the table. Doing a little science. I'm an addict myself. Try to, shed some light.
Absolutely, man. I think that'd be huge. Because I know that for me, I'm real big on like, I want to know the whys behind these things. Like, yeah, I get that I'm an addict and there's, there's a program and 12 steps but also too, like I want to understand more of the science behind this stuff.
Absolutely. I think that's why I got into it myself,
Yeah.
Try to understand, try to get an owner's manual on yourself,
Right. And like, there's no, even with like having that owner's manual, like it's kind of hard to follow sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially if you're not in the field of science.
Absolutely.
So, shedding light on that and kind of breaking it down into like layman's terms almost, like I think that could definitely be really helpful.
I'll try to bring some fun stuff with me.
Yeah. We've got some good ideas, like some costumes we'll bring into play and like so. And just kind of going back a little bit, like I remember like, dude, at the start of my recovery. So Kyle and I have been friends since 6th grade. Long time. We're 35 now. So long time friends, good friends.
Almost 20 years.
Longer than that.
Oh yeah. Geez.
It'd be like 22. How old were we in 6th grade? Is that like 12 years old?
Sounds about right. Yeah. So 20 plus. Yeah.
So 20 plus years. Like, holy shit, man.
Long time.
That's a long time. And so I remember, back in January of 2021, I got discovered, kicked out of the house, like, and I remember just like, I don't know, you were definitely one of the first calls that I made just to like, I was so desperate to just like get out what was going on inside of me. And man, like you had been just such a big like rock and support for me at that beginning time period.
Well, I'm glad I could have been there, man. It's, yeah, you were really hurting.
Yeah. Now, did you have any idea that I was just holding all of this in at all?
What a question. No, of course not.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. No, I was very, very surprised to hear, all of it was very heavy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like as a friend trying to figure out how to help. It's, very, very surprising and, a lot to process.
Yeah, I can imagine. Cause I know I talked to one of our friends and John, and he was like, dude, I had no idea. And it was almost like, that's by design, obviously. Like, I feel like growing up, I was always like, I just tried to put on a front and tried to be this big, confident personality to compensate for what was going on inside of me.
I wouldn't even call it a front, honestly.
You call it whatever you want, but that's not how I saw it. I still see you as a confident person, and I don't know. It's such an interesting question. Like, how would I'm thinking back, like, how would I have known? Like, it's not like, of course, it's not something that you brought up and introduced into conversation.
Right.
And I mean, what kind of clues would I have had access to?
Yeah.
None.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. And I don't think that, so obviously, so when you got into college, so we lived together for a couple of years. But that at that point in time, my drug use wasn't what it was later on. And because you had gone to different colleges and you were away, and you're still away, but now you're coming back around more. So I don't know if, and even when I was doing drugs, I mean, you never really took part in them.
Nothing,
in the cocaine.
None of the cocaine, really. Yeah.
Like maybe there was a couple times.
Yeah.
But again, like I've shared this before, but like I was the one that was always bringing it around. It was nobody else bringing it around. It was me.
The few times I have done it, it was,
it was because I had it.
Absolutely.
And you were like, hey, can I get some? But then you never were like, you were never that like, hey, let me get more. That was never you. That was never really any of our friends, honestly.
Thankfully.
Thankfully.
I was lucky in that regard.
Seriously. I mean, yeah, seriously, like thankfully, like, because and that's why I think it's so cool that like I haven't really had to cut out anybody from my childhood as far as bad influences on me, because I was the one that was always bringing it around.
It's fortunate.
Yeah, really, it really honestly is. And so I remember right before treatment, and I've shared this before about like laying in bed and thinking like, all right, what do I want to do with my life? And being like, man, I want to share my story. And like, I remember like finding hope in that. And I remember telling you that, and you were like, Alex, whatever I can do to help you, I will help you. And so like from then, and this was way before, this was 7 months before the podcast was even born. And you were like, whatever I can do to help you, I will help you do that. And then I remember we got into this topic of like around freedom, and like my idea of freedom is to be able to stand in front of a group of people that aren't addicts, just whatever, out in the world, and say, hey, I'm Alex, I'm a recovering sex addict, and not care what they think. And I remember we actually had a pretty lengthy discussion around that, and how like, yeah, I
remember those very well.
Yeah. Like that's my idea of freedom,
Me too. Not being ashamed of the things I'm ashamed of, and being able to own yourself and your past, be able to move forward, be open, be honest. Me too.
Yeah, I think that that's a pretty solid goal for anybody. Because I mean, I think in today's society, it's like, what's the level of success? Money, materials, notoriety, things like that. That's what people strive for. And it's like, yeah, maybe at one point in time in my life, that's what I wanted. I wanted the big house. I wanted the nicest cars. And now it's like, no, I don't really.
I just want to be comfortable.
I want to be comfortable. Yeah. I want to be comfortable. I want to be comfortable in my own skin.
Absolutely.
Like I could have none of this. I could not have the podcast. I could not have any of this. If I'm okay in my own skin, then like, dude, that's. And I don't want to say that I'm not a success now, but like that's clear. Like my idea of success is like, all right, take away all these things. If I can be okay with who I am in my own skin, then that's a good life to live.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so the idea is then like, what's the extreme of, being open and, especially in speaking about, what you're going through, is just talking that into a microphone.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And there's still sometimes I lay in bed and I'm like, I get these like waves of anxiety and I'm like, holy shit. Is this really what I want to be doing? Like, do I really want to be putting my face out there like this? Like, wow.
Dude, I'm going to get a wave of anxiety from just sitting here right now. And I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine.
Dude, it's so weird, man. Cause like that's when, and then like I'll wake up the next morning and I'll be like, oh yeah, no, I'm good. Like, yeah, no, this is absolutely what I want to be doing.
There's no lions
here. Right? Like it's just wild to think that like this is where I've come. And it's been an interesting ride. It's been a bumpy ride, and you've definitely been there for the most of it, man. I think you were the first person I ever sent my first episode to.
Is that right?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. Because you were such a big support in the beginning as far as like what I wanted to do, and just really good conversations around, the freedom aspect of it and the podcast. And you were the first person I sent it to. And I still remember, vaguely, but I still kind of remember the first conversation. I was driving back from my therapist's office, and I had just sent you that episode like the day or two before, something like that. And I called you, and you were like, dude, continue to do this. You need to keep doing this. And I was like, oh shit, okay, all right.
I remember listening. You hear like a lot of your friends tell you that they're about to go write a new screenplay, and you're like, you wonder like how much you should say, yeah, go, yeah. I remember you having this idea, and I thought that you were going to do a good job. I remember listening to the first one, and I listened to a lot of podcasts, and you could just feel that there was like something really powerful there, that it's still like even quite raw. Like, that first episode is raw.
Very.
And, man, I think you're doing something amazing. I think it's incredible.
Yeah. And then from there, I mean, you just kept supporting, now we're at the point where like, dude, you're a partner in No Lions here. Kyle handles a lot of like the technical side of things. I mean, the equipment that we're using, the systems that I'm using. I mean, you've basically brought in all of this stuff that I didn't have, and I didn't have any knowledge on. And you've come in, you've helped me set up this beautiful studio. You've got things running, still a work in progress, but we're very much, really trying to, your whole thing and Kyle's whole thing is, I just want to make this as easy as possible for you on the back end. You just keep talking to the mic. Let me handle the other stuff. And I definitely want to, like, it's asking for help, right? As an addict, it's really hard to do. I think part of the human condition, it's really hard to ask for help. And I look at you and, you've got your own company you're trying to run. You've got a full-time job that you're working on. You're always doing something. And so I still go through these bouts where I'm like, I feel really bad because I'm like, damn, Kyle's so busy. Like, he doesn't have time to help me. Like,
and I gotta tell you, dude, get that out of your head, because I believe in this.
Literally every single time you're like, dude, don't worry about it. Like, this is why I'm a partner with you in this. Whatever you need, let me know.
What do you call that? Like a tape or something, like a broken tape?
Yeah. That tape of like, I'm a burden on somebody else, or like, I should be able to do this on my own. Like, because again, the society around the view of what men should be able to do, men should have all the answers. Men should be able to provide and be strong, and
men should be able to create a video podcast.
Yeah. Dude, honestly, like, going forward, man. I mean, yeah, like, right? Like,
come on.
I mean, it's funny. So, and you still have to remind me, like, dude, I said I was going to help you. Like, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't want to, or if I didn't believe in this.
Absolutely. And if, I wasn't, one of your best lifelong friends as well, I've got a lot of reasons to help you.
Absolutely.
And you helped me a lot too.
And I really appreciate the help too. Like, it's meant a lot to me. And again, the podcast wouldn't be where it was at today. I wouldn't be where I was at today. Regardless of the podcast, I wouldn't be where I was at today without, the support from you as well.
I'm glad I was able to be here for you, and it's honestly incredible to see how far you've come in such a short amount of time. I mean, go back and listen to that first episode, and come on, it's man, you were in a rough place, and to see how well you're doing now is incredible. I'm glad I could have played some small part in that.
Yeah, I need to go back and listen to that episode because, yeah, Because you're right, in the grand scheme of things, man. I mean, 3 years goes by quick. And just to think about where I was at and where I'm at now. And I mean, yeah. Just some of the stuff that I had to talk about back then, over and over. And dude, one of the things that in my recovery, and other people talk about this too, is like sounding like a broken record, right? Like talking about the same things over and over and over. I mean, because in my mind, I'm like, dude, Kyle's got to get sick of me just talking about Patricia the whole time, because that was a lot. That was a lot a lot of the stuff that I was dealing with for shit, man. I mean, the first year and a half of my recovery, at least, if not maybe a little more. And now, it's like I don't bring her up at all,
dude. No, yeah, it's. Man, I'm really glad we got past that. I'll just say that you've come a long way.
Like, because I mean, just for you to have the patience and the empathy to be like, dude, shut up. Like, because that's like the biggest fear is like, I'm gonna talk this stuff in circles to the point where everybody around me is gonna be like, dude, shut up already. Like, get over it. Like, like, and you luckily, like, you were always there, man. You were always there to listen.
I'll try my best.
That's you did it, man. I mean, like, you were there for me. Like, you listened, you listened. You were patient.
That's really what you needed, was just somebody to listen, honestly.
100%. I mean, even to this day still, like, there's times where, like, I just need people to listen. I just need an ear. And not one that's, that's because you can tell when people are listening and when people really aren't listening.
Totally.
Like, you can totally tell that. And, you were always one of the ones that I knew you were listening. I knew you were listening.
Definitely. Well, I mean, I don't know how you couldn't listen with a lot of the topics that you were going through. Honestly, man, it was like heavy stuff. Yeah, no, I'm glad you feel like I was there for you. I tried my best.
You definitely were. And, even with some of like the heavy topics, like, I know that causes some people to shut down, even if they are just listening. Like, if things get too heavy, people will shut down, even if they are just listening.
Absolutely. I mean, you've told me about other friends, mutual friends of ours that, you brought things up with, and to no fault of their own, it's just kind of hard to talk about.
Yeah.
It's really hard to talk about.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Or even just to listen to. Like, because if you're not really invested in that person, like, I almost, I kind of see that in my, like, interactions today with, like, people that I'm not really close with. They'll, like, start bringing up, heavy stuff, or not even like heavy stuff, but like, stuff that you normally don't talk about in passing, and I find myself not so invested to the point where I'm like, and now this is on me. This is my problem, but like, almost like I want to nitpick what they're talking about. Like, I want to nitpick and be like, you're looking at this the wrong way, or and that's me. That's my problem. Did you ever feel like that at all? Like,
well, I wonder if you felt like that about my advice.
No, honestly, no, just because the history that we have, like, people, like the close people around me, I will hear that advice. I'll hear it. Am I going to agree with it? Not always, the whole idea of like, take what you want and leave the rest. Like, maybe not. But I value the advice that I get from people that know me and are around me.
I feel like this whole process, you've grown a lot in your ability to receive feedback in that way.
Yeah.
To be able to take it or leave it and not take it so personally. And I mean, you get a lot of advice when you go through recovery, right?
A lot.
And so you have to figure out a way to filter it and decide what to keep and what to forget. Yeah, no, it's I'm glad you didn't think I was nitpicky.
No. And even because I do, there were probably a couple times where I was like, you're off, or it hit me in a way I wasn't in a place to hear it, or, things like that. But even when that happened, like, we were able to talk through it. And then, come to an understanding of like, okay, yeah, you're right, man. Maybe I did push it a little far there.
I don't remember getting into too many disagreements.
There really weren't. There really weren't.
Yeah.
Yeah, there really weren't. But even if there were, we were able to talk through it. And again, that speaks to just, the friendship, how well, like, we respect each other, we love each other. If someone passing by wants to try to give me that advice, it's easy for me to shut them down and be like, yeah, okay. You don't know what you're talking about.
No doubt, dude. No doubt. That kind of trusted feedback's everything.
Oh, it really is. And like, we need that in our lives. We need that. Without that, I mean, we're just going to like do our own thing. And I know that me doing my own thing isn't always the best thing. You need those checks and balances.
Yeah, no doubt. Damn, I'm like back in like thinking about some of those calls, man. Like, especially at the beginning, just kind of like where I was. I'm like feeling like just kind of those memories coming back. And those were probably some of the heaviest conversations I've ever had with a friend in my life. And it, we're saying like, I'm just trying to listen, and you feel this like, you feel like you want to give advice, but you haven't been there. And so I feel like, I don't know, you hear this a lot, like partners probably in their own, sometimes your partner just wants you to listen to them, and, yeah, I don't know. Man, I'm just really happy to hear that I was able to help, because it was really heavy. And I, definitely did try not to shut down, because that certainly is a tendency in such heavy topics to like, and then you don't know how much you want to keep, how much more do you keep asking about it, and how much do they want to talk and do that. It's, but I learned a lot through that too. I appreciate that you trusted me with that. And that, I mean, it's, it's nothing light, and it's nothing that you wouldn't, I feel like it brought us a lot closer together. And I really appreciate that you said it's such a big help. I felt like I grew a lot through all that too.
Yeah, dude, you were a huge help. There were times, and again, there were times where you were like, dude, call me every day. Call me every day. Here, I'm going to clear my schedule from this time to this time. Give me a call.
I forgot about that.
What time do you get off of work? 3:30. All right, I'm going to block out from 3:30 to 4:00. Call me. And for a while there, we were talking every single day at that time. You were my one phone call that I was talking and just letting go everything.
I was like, dude, you got to start a podcast. I can't keep listening to this.
Yeah. Yeah, man, you were a huge help to me, man. Like, you were a huge help. Like, and at the time, so obviously you're in studio now, and we're sharing this space, but you're out on the West Coast. And at that point in time, I mean, that's all we had. And I mean, for a long time, before recovery, because you've been out on the West Coast for 10 plus years,
something
10,
like that, yeah,
right
10.
around there. And, for a long time there, you weren't, I'd see you once a year. Once a year, you'd come back for the holidays, and you'd be in town for a couple weeks, and we'd see each other. But during that time, I mean, phone calls, we really didn't. Just like any friends, like sometimes there's space, there's distance, and you don't really talk a whole lot. But then when we would talk, it was like we left off where we picked right back up. And so then when I got into recovery, I mean, for the last 3 years, I mean, when you're not in town, yeah, we don't talk every day, but there's been pretty constant communication between you and me over the last 3 years. And for a good stretch of that is we were talking every single day.
No doubt. Now we're working together.
And, back to like, not so much the advice part, but like the questions. You always ask me really good questions. And I think that that's a big part of listening, is like asking me to expand on things. Why do you feel that way? I can't remember anything specifically, but I do know, because you're a scientist. You're very logically thinking. I feel like you definitely approach things from like a science standpoint. And so a lot of your questions were based around like, okay, well, why, what, like, and honestly, like, that's better than advice, because then that gets me thinking in a different way.
Absolutely. I feel like I process the best in the same way when somebody asks me a good question, and it makes me kind of go off and challenge the way I feel about something.
Right. So for me, it's not so much, and that's like how I process and try to change my way of thinking. It's more through questions than like straight on advice. Like, because you're going to ask me questions that I can't add, that I'm not thinking to ask myself in my head. So then those questions help break up that roller coaster, that roundabout that I'm on.
I guess it's the Socratic method, like the old, I think Socrates came up with that.
Really?
Yeah. Like, I think they call it the Socratic method. It's like teaching through, it was like, I guess not just in like, friendship or conversation or recovery, but just in like education. It was like a way of teaching, was through trying to provoke the student to ask themselves a deep question.
Okay, that makes sense.
Age old.
I mean, dude, some of this stuff is like really simple. Like, ask questions. Ask questions instead of like sitting there trying to preach or give advice. Ask questions.
That's really that's good advice, ironically.
Because then you don't come off as so threatening. If you're asking questions, that gives me a chance to reflect and change my way of thinking, instead of, because I know that if people try to preach at me, I'm not hearing that.
100%. It's more persuasive, because you can ask, I think the way that I've come to understand new things is by asking myself those questions. And if I can find a way to help someone else ask themselves that same question that brought me to my conclusion, I can't just take the conclusion and give you the conclusion. You have to actually like give the person the process that you use to get yourself to the conclusion, so that they can get themselves to that conclusion on their own, on their own behalf. Right.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like that whole idea of like, make the person think that they came up with it.
Interesting. I mean, that's, probably a persuasion tactic too.
Yeah.
I think more of like a teach a man to fish instead of give a man a fish.
Yeah.
Like, teach, like if somebody taught you to fish and now you're fishing and coming up with your own, ideas of fish, then you should teach other people how to fish in the way that you fish yourself. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, now what's the next topic? We'll be right back.
Yeah. Insert ad break here. Hey guys, I just want to take a minute to share something deeply personal and transformative in my journey of recovery. I've been where you might be right now, struggling with the weight of addiction and feeling lost. But there's a place that offered me a new beginning, a place I truly believe in. It's called Begin Again Institute. At Begin Again, they understand the deep-rooted trauma behind addiction. Their 14-day intensive program for men tackles the neurobiological aspects of addiction head-on. It's not just about breaking a habit. It's about understanding and healing the underlying trauma that formed it in the first place. And for those who have been impacted by betrayal, Begin Again extends care to partners of addicts too. Their partner support program is offered at no additional cost to the family and runs alongside the men's intensive. This program helps participants gain an understanding of the trauma they've experienced and sets them on their own path to healing. If you or someone you love are grappling with sexual addiction, pornography addiction, or intimacy issues, Begin Again Institute can be that pivotal step towards recovery and a new lease on life. Remember, you can't go back and change the past, but it's never too late to begin again. To learn more about their life-changing program, visit beginagaininstitute.com or call 720-776-9076 to reserve your spot in the next 2-week intensive. I promise, it'll be the best call that you ever make for yourself. Stay strong, keep fighting, and keep tuning in to No Lions Here for more conversations about recovery, resilience, and hope.
That just reminds me of the catfish conversation we were having this morning around Manti Teo.
You got to be careful on the internet.
That clip's gonna go viral. Yeah, man. Yeah, dude. I just going back. I mean, I'm really grateful for our friendship, and I think it's great that I have so many good people in my life that I can lean on.
You're lucky.
Honestly, very blessed, very lucky, to have this, because not everybody has this. Not everybody has this. And sometimes I look at my life and I'm like, why me? Why did I get blessed? And I don't always view my life like that, right? Like sometimes I don't. But when I do, there are some times where I really question, why? Because I've done some bad things. I've hurt people in bad ways, deep ways. And I'm just like, well, I don't understand this. And it's not really necessarily up for me to understand either.
And it's not meant to be fair, but it's to, what is it? Who much is given, much is expected.
Yeah.
I think you just got to kind of treat it like that. There's no sense in toiling over why me. You just try to use it for good.
Yeah, that's very true. That's a good point. Yeah, because I think sometimes I get too wrapped up in the whys. Why me? Why this? Why am I an addict? Why am I this? Where there's just a level of surrender that you don't have to know it all.
It's it's self-pity almost. It's just like a way to, when I get in those cycles for myself, that's what I'm doing to myself, at least, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And then that can lead me into a real spiral, honestly.
You don't deserve this,
Yeah. Oh, why? Well, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And then it just spirals from there. Because, I still have that. There still is that core belief inside of me that I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not doing enough. I'm never going to be good enough.
For what?
For the things that I want to achieve.
What do you want to achieve?
I want to be happy.
Are you happy?
I feel more fulfilled now.
You seem happy.
I overall, in the grand scheme of things, if I can really zoom out, because I have a hard time doing that. I have a hard time zooming out and viewing my life and where I'm at in a very objective way. Right. And I think that that's part of the human condition too, is it's so hard to look at our own lives in a zoomed out objective way, but zoom out, bigger picture. It's yeah, I got a lot of really good stuff going on. I'm doing a lot of really good work. And I know myself more now than ever. And that's a gift. And so, yeah, I'm definitely in a good place.
You're the best version of yourself that I've known.
Yeah.
Not to say, I mean, you've always been, yeah, I've always loved you. You've always been, you know, my best friend and one of my best friends all like for 20 plus years. But honest to God, I mean, you seem way happier than you ever have. You seem like you've had more purpose now than you
Yeah.
ever have.
That's a really good point. And you've seen a lot of different versions of me.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen a lot of different.
Likewise,
We've
yeah.
got some war stories. You know, we won't share, but you know, we've.
I can only imagine what you're thinking about, and I'm sure I know we're not even thinking about the same things. You know,
We've got some war stories, man. Maybe at some point in time we pick out the lesser versions of them.
We'll get there
because we definitely got into some shit growing up.
Yeah, we did.
And again, going back to like just being really lucky, like we really lucked out because we got into some shit.
Yeah, we had good adults around us.
Yeah,
in large part, right?
Yeah, honestly, yeah, we really did. Yeah. So Kyle's house was the house that like that's where we went. We did a lot of our hanging out there, and your mom is like a second mom to me. Like I just absolutely love your mom.
Shout out, Mom.
Yeah, shout out, Mom.
What's up, Mom?
Hey, Mom.
Love you.
Yeah, love you too. Yeah. Seriously, like, yeah, man, we got into some shit. I think it helped shape who we were too. You know,
definitely
that age-old tale of like, oh, this stuff made me who I am.
I wouldn't change any of it.
Honestly, no,
none of it.
No. We had fun. We got in trouble. I mean, all kids get in trouble. Luckily, our trouble wasn't anything that really held us back in life.
Yeah.
None of our friends are serving hard time.
That's right. Thank God.
Yeah, thank God.
I think the trouble made us better. I really do. I was thinking about this a lot yesterday. Like, I don't know, maybe we'll get into this sometime, but I've been into a little bit of trouble. And I think that making mistakes and learning from those has helped me work harder than I would have if I didn't otherwise.
Yeah.
And so I was spending time thinking about, is that a good thing? Is it good that I made the mistakes that I made to help me be a better person and be able to be more motivated to do better? Or would it have just been better if I didn't make those mistakes? It's, I mean, it couldn't have been any other way, honestly, you know?
Couldn't have.
So what's the point?
I think the biggest thing out of all of that is that like you learn from your mistakes, because we always have that choice. We make mistakes. We're human beings. We're going to make mistakes no matter what. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's ever going to be perfect. But when you make a mistake, are you going to look at that and learn from that? Or are you just going to not look at it and not learn from it? We have that choice. You made a choice to look at your mistakes and learn from them and realize, I don't want to do that again. I don't want to go back to that place. So I'm not going to. Here's where I can make sure that that doesn't happen. And I think that's what makes you a good person and where you're at today.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Sick, dude. You think I'm a good person?
I do. Yeah.
Cool.
I do. Yeah. I
Nice.
do.
I think
Yeah.
you're a good person too.
Thanks, man. Thanks. I think you're one of the smartest people that I know too, honestly.
I'd say the smartest, but
I mean, you jockey with another one of our friends.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah.
That's your own shortcoming, but
I always tell people, I'm like, Kyle's one of the smartest people that I know.
well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's probably not true. I guess I put off a pretty good image then, huh?
You work hard
I do
at
work
what
hard.
you do. And I think that makes you, and in your work, you're constantly looking for new ways of doing things, and you're always exploring, which to me is a characteristic of somebody that is smart. You're a seeker. Me and my sponsor talk a lot about seekers in the program. Like, I want to surround myself with seekers. I want to surround myself with people that are always looking at things and wanting to gather new information, new perspectives, so that maybe I can try to apply that to my life. And I think that that's what you do in your work.
Definitely. Yeah. A seeker. It's
You're
interesting.
You're a seeker.
Yeah.
You know, you're seeking for new ways to do things, and you're coming up with new ways of doing things. You're coming up with new ways of helping people in what you're doing.
Trying to.
In your own way. Like, you're a seeker.
My grandma would just say, "Why can't you sit still?" Might just be that.
Yeah, it could be, but you're genuinely interested in the things that you're doing. You are you wouldn't work, right? Like, we don't work hard on things we're not interested in.
I feel lucky to have found stuff that I become obsessed with. You know, just really dive into. I do.
Yeah.
I think that's what we were talking about earlier, is like, what's the goals in life? What's a happy life? Be able to wake up, be happy, work on something you're interested in, feel like you have a purpose. I feel really lucky that I've kind of, you know, stumbled my way into some of that.
Yeah. I envy you a little bit in that aspect of, like, I wish that I could find something that I was so into that I was able to just put all this effort into it. Whereas I feel like I'm very scattered with what I have. I have a hard time. Like, you know, I love doing the podcast, but I can't necessarily sit in here all day editing, recording. Like, I have trouble with that. As much as I love doing the podcast and as much as it helps me out a whole lot, I have a really hard time with that, like, focus around it.
That's fine. I don't see that. I was going to say, I think the podcast is your version of that. I have, maybe it looks different to you because I'm in here working on stuff all the time, you know, and maybe you feel like you're not spending as much time on the podcast. I'm spending on other things, kind of making comparisons is what it is, it's come down to. But
honestly, yeah.
Honestly, I think that this is that thing for you. And I have ADD, or, you know, what I like to jump around between different activities, and I found a bunch that I have a lot of fun with, this being one of them too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Again, objective, zoomed out view of our lives. I have such a hard time doing that.
Yeah. No, dude, I think you found it. You're being too hard on yourself, you know?
Dude, I mean, again, that's another pattern of mine. That's another tape, like, just too hard on myself. But I mean, I remember it was funny, like, when we were living together. So we lived together for 2 years. I think it was right around 2 years.
At least. Yeah.
Don't want to talk about crazy stories. But there would be times where, like, I wouldn't see you for like 2 weeks. We lived together, but I wouldn't see you for like 2 weeks because you'd get involved in something at school because you were going to school at the time, and you'd get so involved in something, and I'd be like, oh, yep, Kyle got into something new, or, you know, something's come up, like, yep, I haven't seen Kyle in a while. He's doing his thing. And then you'd reemerge, and we'd go, you know, we'd play ping pong, and
a lot of ping pong,
man. We played a lot of ping pong.
Is this the time to announce our Twitch channel?
Oh yeah. We're working on a Twitch channel. You want to say the name?
Muley Pounge.
Where we've got when did you get that table? Because it's not a table from our childhood.
It is.
It is?
High school, yeah.
High school?
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't realize. I thought we had been through multiple.
No, that's been, since high school.
Okay. So we've got the ping pong table that we have here in the studio is our childhood ping pong, minus when Kyle and I lived together. So when Kyle and I lived together,
exciting content, by the way.
This is honestly, like, I kind of like reliving this. I do.
No, I do too. I do too. We don't care if you're enjoying yourself right now.
That's on you.
This is for us.
We're reminiscing. But when we lived together, we went out. We didn't have room in the basement for like a full size ping pong table. So we went out and we bought a piece of plywood. I don't even remember the dimensions, but it was way smaller.
It was an 8x4.
Okay, 8x4. What's a normal ping pong table?
Probably like 9x5, something like that. About a foot short on each side.
So we were about a foot short. We got 2 sawhorses, and we strung up the net.
It was press board too, so it wasn't even like nice wood.
You had to play the table because you didn't know what the table was going to give you. You would hit a divot or something like, and the ball would just go nuts. Honestly, I feel like that's when we were playing our best ping pong.
We were.
And that translated into our games today because, I mean, we started from the bottom.
It's like when you put like a weighted backpack on yourself and climb a mountain. It's like that small table, man. You gotta try harder.
We really slummed it there.
We did.
Should
have entered some tournaments, really saw where we were in the world,
Honestly, yeah, we should have.
Probably not very good.
I think that we'll
let the Twitch viewers let us know.
We'll let the Twitch viewers, yeah. I think that we're above average ping pong players.
We're probably above average. I know I've just gotten beat. I always feel like I'm good, and then I go and I just get beat by somebody who like really plays ping pong. Like even Danielle's dad, my girlfriend's dad, will beat me.
Really?
Yeah, he's like really. He says he beat like the best person in Finland or some bullshit. I can't.
Really?
He's really good. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Now does he do the toss up serve?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so he's
by
by the book.
Yeah.
Okay. Because sometimes I see those, the guys that just hit it out of their hand, and I think part of it too, because so like in the treatment center, they've got a ping pong table, right? And I'm in there, and I'm playing guys, and like I'm beating them, but they're like also like they're beating me too, And I think that it's learning the new way of someone playing.
Oh yeah.
Like I struggle with that. If I've never played you before and I play you, I might not play as good because I'm still trying to figure out how you play.
Totally.
Whereas now, like we both know how each other plays, so I feel like it's very even when you and I play because we know how each other plays.
Oh, we've played thousands of games against each other. Probably. I mean, that sounds like a big number, but
I mean, considering how long have we known each other and how long we've been playing.
I mean, what's 2 years is like 700 days about, and then say we played 5 games a day. Yeah, man, thousands. Yeah,
because there'd be times where we'd be in that basement for like 2 hours, just running it back.
A lot of ping pong. A
lot of ping pong. A lot of Trailer Park Boys.
Should we? And flipping a video.
Oh, that's not bad. And Tiger Woods golf.
A lot of Tiger Woods golf. I'm not a gamer, but I can play Tiger Woods golf. Shout out to Tom and Tom's friend Josh.
Speaking of sex addicts, Tiger Woods is a sex addict.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Oh yeah, I watched that documentary.
Yeah, it was a good documentary.
Yeah,
I'd love to get him on the podcast someday.
You listening, Tiger?
Hey, Tiger, we'll record an episode on a golf course. We'll go play around at his course, and we'll record an episode.
I think now I think you're talking his language. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll go to you. I'll go play golf with you.
Go to me. What do you mean?
To Tiger. Like I'm gonna go to Tiger.
You hear that, Tiger? We won't make you come out to
No.
to undisclosed location in the Midwest.
No, we won't. We'll come to you. We'll come to you.
I guess.
Yeah.
I guess Tiger will come to you.
Fine. I mean, or he can come to us. I don't. But yeah, that'd be fun. White whale.
On the next episode.
Tiger Woods. If anybody knows Tiger Woods, send this to him. Thank you.
Oh man, I hope in like 10 years or something we one can only dream, right? That you keep doing this and who knows? Maybe Tiger Woods does come out here.
Maybe he does.
One can dream.
I mean, you never know. Honestly, and that's in all seriousness. Like when we started the podcast, I would have never have thought that it was where it's at today. And it's it's still not even necessarily selfishly where I would like it to be, and it's only been 2.5 years. It's exciting to see where things go because in part of all of this and a goal that I had last year on the podcast was to get a sponsorship, and now like I can, officially say that we are a sponsored podcast.
Pew, pew, pew.
Breaking news. Not so breaking. But yeah, first paid sponsor.
It's huge.
Huge. And to think again where I started 2.5 years ago to now 60 plus episodes in, doing this all self-funded to moving it, to YouTube, now to a paid sponsorship, man.
You would have never believed 2 years ago or whatever, when you're starting, somebody told you that you would have this sponsorship that you have now. You would have never believed it, right? I don't think you would have.
I don't think I would have. I would have said, yeah, that would be nice,
Yeah.
But I'm probably going to have to do this for 5+ years because that's kind of the name of the game when it comes to podcasts. And even if you do have a podcast, I mean, there's no guarantee that you're ever going to get sponsored.
Yeah, I mean, you're lucky if you can, find someone out there that resonates with your message, and to even have any listeners is it's not a given.
No, it's not at all. And I've always said, like, and I don't need to get like too nitpicky, but like it was almost like, do I really want to, do I want to get to a point where I want to Beyond Hello sponsor or something along those lines?
What's hello?
Beyond Hello, like, Hello Fresh.
Oh, okay.
Like the generic.
Sure.
Like, yeah, I'm not going
to
BetterHelp.
MeUndies.
That actually wouldn't be a bad one.
Oh, that would be
BetterHelp would actually be one that kind of fits in.
Line.
But I'm not going to get a Blue Chew.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not going to get a Blue Chew sponsor. That's they're not going to do that.
This episode's brought to you by cocaine.
In a weird way, it was though.
Yeah.
It's just I'm not going to make money off that, and that's okay. It's not all about money. But yeah, it is brought to you by cocaine. Because if I wasn't a cocaine addict, I wouldn't be here. So sponsorship, like, so like that's exciting.
Huge, man. That's a huge milestone.
Huge milestone, man. Huge milestone. And you know what? I haven't shared this with you yet, but like, man, I can feel myself putting pressure on myself because I want to perform for them. I see them, okay, hey, we believe in what you're doing. And it's begin again, the treatment center that I went to. They're coming in, they're going to be, a sponsor of the show. And I'm really excited for the relationship. I think that we've got a really good relationship. Obviously, I've had a bunch of their therapists on, their president on.
Wonderful people.
Great people, man. I remember too, like, I started the podcast in 2021, right? And I emailed Nate Geyer. I've had him on the show twice now. I emailed him that December because I started the podcast in like September, but I didn't put it on Spotify or out in public until like November. And then I sent it to him in December. And I didn't hear anything back from them until like August of the next year.
Yikes.
And it didn't really bother me at all. Sure. I was just kind of like, oh, okay, they're professionals. Like maybe they have a boundary around like dealing with clients. I didn't know.
Yeah, it's sensitive.
Right, very sensitive. So then, almost a year later, Matt Wanger reaches out. And at this point in time, I had no idea that they were even listening. Turns out they were listening the whole time. And, in talking to Ed, the president, he was like, hey, man, we wanted you to find your voice. We knew that we wanted to do something with you. And there had been some talks, but like it never really went anywhere. But then he was like, we wanted you to find your voice. We didn't want to step in and like have too much influence on you and what you were doing, because this is your thing. And that makes sense. Where's it going with this? Oh, now that they've come on, because, you know, and I even said this in our meeting with them, against probably what Kyle would have liked me to say, but I said to him, I was like, you guys are helping me more than I'm helping you at this point.
It's not that I don't want you to, they kind of asked you like, well, what are you guys doing for us? And then Big Panda's like, well, you guys are helping out me way more than you. And it went over so well, like, cause it's the truth, honestly. I mean, they saved you, man. Like, that's how I look at them, is like this recovery group saved my friend.
Mm.
So the sponsorship, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, and then, yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but
no,
for you to, yeah, but it was pretty funny when it came up.
And which, but, looking at it now, like, Ed said to me on the phone one day when we talked, he was like, podcasts are a lot like boats. You got to put a lot into it. There's a lot to maintain. There's a lot of work. So like a boat, if you don't have one, it's best to know somebody with one. And, well, Alex, you have one. And so, okay, great. We believe in what you're doing. You've got the message that we're trying to spread, so you can definitely help us out. So, and I do this a lot. I do this a lot. I look at it on paper and I go, well, you guys are an established organization. I'm just a sex addict with a podcast. Again, going back to that, like, I'm not good enough.
Totally.
Like, that totally funnels down. The core of my issues funnel down into I'm not good enough.
You started with sorry, keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh,
you started with that you're feeling pressure.
Yes. Yeah.
And do you think that's a bad thing?
No. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think I turn it into a bad thing internally.
How?
It causes a lot of anxiety for me in a way that, like,
what's the worst that could happen?
Good question. Yeah, really good question. This is what I have to, like, think about is, okay, so I want to perform in the way of, like, I want people to hear this podcast, and I want them to be like, oh, wow, I want to go check out what they're doing. I want to go to begin again, and then if you are struggling, like, it's totally up to you what you do with that. Like, not everybody's going to go to treatment.
Of course, but you are offering your perspective as somebody who's been through that program, and yeah.
And so, I'm afraid that, I am not going to be able to produce for them. And then,
what does that mean? What does produce for them mean?
Send people their way.
And then what happens? They
say,
sponsoring.
Yeah. Sorry, man. We're not getting out what we paid. So,
well, it's definitely a possibility.
It is. And so it is, right? It totally is. And I'm totally aware of that. However, what I think that my brain turns that into, well, that's a total failure. That is, and that's how I look at a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Is I totally catastrophize, because, dude, like, they could absolutely be like,
that's so interesting, because that's still a win in my mind. Is like, you got a sponsorship, you set up a podcast from scratch, got a sponsorship in about 2 years, and then if that falls through, then, as long as it's in good faith, if you're really into this, then the next one you're going to have so much more information about how to deliver successfully for them. they say in starting businesses that I think it's the second time someone tries to start a business, they're, 60% more successful. So you learn from the mistake, but it's interesting to hear you say that that's a failure. It's really like to, I think it's like needs a reframe that's just like what you have to do to get to the next step,
That's, yeah, like totally.
It would still be, even if who knows if you'll be able to, it's not up to you all you can do is tell your story and let people know how it was for you and the ways that it helped you. And if they, if they decide to look into BAI, then it's on themselves. I feel you though. It's like, it's easy for me to say like, dude, what are you worried about? Like
of that objective view again, like going back to that, like, because that's, yeah, because I'm me again. This funnels down into me, myself, who I am is not good enough. So therefore, I have to produce at a very high level in order for me to be accepted. When they're coming on saying, dude, we love what you're doing. You're spreading a message. You're real with your message. You're raw with your message. You're not perfect, and that's nobody's perfect. And you're sharing it. And we love what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing.
It makes a lot of sense to me. And I think that, deep down, what it seems that a lot of this recovery accomplishes is helping people open up and break the silence about, their own like inner tapes and these like recurring thoughts and things that they feel like they can't share. Not even they, but we. And the idea of being so open to acknowledging and learning from the past that you're willing to unabashedly talk about your mistakes and your problems into a microphone on the internet. I do like, I've spent a lot of time thinking about like, is it responsible for me to encourage this in that kind of way, because could that be used against you in some way that might hurt you? And a lot of time thinking about that. And I think that there's really something deep about being comfortable with just saying the things that happened and being able to learn and grow from those and being transparent. And the fact that Begin Again is now supporting that is such a huge validation, I think, for what you're doing. And that I can see it as one of your best friends that this is helping you tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the boat analogy that, BAI probably doesn't, like a recovery center maybe shouldn't be in the business of podcasting. I don't know. Who am I to say? But the idea of, well, why wouldn't we just work with somebody who we've been able to help, who can now share their success story and hopefully inspire others to take that same journey? Makes perfect sense. And just the idea that, they've been just so supportive. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they support this, I think it just says so much. It's not about the money,
Right. Mm-mm.
And so for you to get to this point, I'm really proud of you, man. Like, I'm learning a lot just watching you do this. And for you to think that if you aren't able to like get BAI more customers, that that you failed, is I totally see where you're coming from. But to me, it's just like, man, that's just such a huge accomplishment. That for you to frame it like that to yourself just even shows me more about what you're going through and how deep that, that kind of that cycle is. Sorry to blather on, but
No, I think that was great. Like, yeah, like that is like this cycle is it, dude, it runs so deep in me. It runs so deep in me. And I have a hard time, I believe you when you're like, yeah, I get that way of thinking. And it's so hard to, I don't know, get other people to understand that.
what do you mean?
The way my brain operates, the way I view myself, like, it's hard to explain that to somebody that doesn't necessarily deal with the things that I deal with. Like in recovery, dude, I can go call my sponsor and I'll tell him this and he'd be like, yeah, dude, you're me. I get it. Absolutely. But, there's some of our other friends that don't understand. And again, no fault to their own. No, it's no fault of theirs. I just, and sometimes, and then I think that, I'm not doing a good enough job of explaining it. When like, that doesn't fall onto me. It's not my job to teach somebody that doesn't necessarily understand the way that my brain works. Because then I'll just spin myself in circles trying to explain.
It's not their responsibility to care at all.
That's a good point too. Like, that's a good point too. So yeah, I sometimes I struggle with that.
I see it, but you've come so far in like, I mean, just in 2 years that like, I'm getting closer to the point that when you say something like that, I'm like, nah, come on.
I mean, these things are still like alive and I don't want to say because, I'm really trying to push back on them, but they're still alive in me. I mean, it took me a long time to get into the woods. It's going to take me a long time to get out of the woods. But, overall, at least there's an awareness there that I have. Like, I see it. I see it every single time. I know exactly where it's coming from. I know why I think like that. It's just like trying to rewire so that I don't always think like that. Because it's always going to be there to some extent, Like, and that's, you rarely ever hear somebody say, I'm a recovered addict. Because there is no final destination in recovery to where like, all right, I'm good. I'm done. I'm cured. I don't have to do this routine, this program anymore because I'm cured. Right? Like there's always maintenance that's going to need to be done. There's always going to be seeking that needs to be done. And I'm okay with that. Like I'm all right saying, yeah, I'm going to have to go to meetings for the rest of my life. I'm okay with that. Like the destination, I think in all of us, for everybody in life is the destination is the grave. That's when things are truly done. Is when, as a guy used to say, when they're patting me in the face with a shovel. That's when we're like done. I don't know how I got to where I got to right now.
No, I'm with you. It's
just in the conversation. I don't know how I got here,
you.
but
yeah. The idea of never, of always having problems, always acknowledging that you'll have problems, always trying to learn from your problems, and nobody ever. I mean, people don't recover. You're in recovery, right? And I think it's actually a helpful mindset for everybody, even beyond so-called addicts, where I think we're all in the same boat, honestly. And some people, are, it's all a matter of degree.
Mm-hmm.
And some people go so far that we have this word addicts to describe what they're doing. But everybody's feeling those same kind of, I don't know. I feel like we're all kind of moving towards impulses and towards like the things that give us pleasure and make us feel comfortable. And sometimes that gets overstimulated and then you get attracted to the wrong thing for too much. But it's the same thing that we're all doing. And for you to say that, you're free of this. Like I've recovered from this impulse, this like I've got full control over my complete free will. I make free will. As somebody, like I feel like I learn a lot just from the addict's perspective, and I think we can all apply that. And now I don't know how I got here either. Is this thing about over with, dude? How long? I feel like we're playing a game of chicken. Who can go longer?
We actually are at a pretty decent stopping point.
Oh, nice. About an hour.
We're further. That did not feel like an hour.
No,
like
felt like 3. I'm just kidding. No, it didn't. Honestly, it was like the time flew.
The time like flew by. Yeah. So I think this is a probably pretty good stopping point. And yeah. And so moving forward, going on, definitely we're going to be doing some journal club stuff, just again around the science. We're gonna tap into Kyle's background as a scientist and get into the weeds on some of this some of this stuff, and try to not make it boring. Yeah, exactly. We're try to mix it up, try to make it fun and enjoyable, and also educational. We're going to be sharing some good information on these topics, and so I'm excited. Moving forward. Good ideas. Just because again, I'm so afraid that like I'm going to run out of things to talk about.
Oh man, come on!
Like I'm afraid that I'm going to run out of things to talk about, and which is not the case at all. Anytime I have a guest on, I'm like, oh, dude, we're going to talk for 10 minutes, and then we're both going to sit there and look at each other. And that has not once ever happened. So I need to give myself more credit for what I'm doing here.
You're really good at it. I mean, we just been going for an hour. I'm kind of thinking before we start, like, I've seen a lot of the episodes. I've been, helping out a little bit, and like, I wonder how does he have any questions for me? Like, what are we gonna talk about? You did a great job.
Yeah.
I felt really comfortable. I was really, it's interesting to sit at this. The seat's a little warmer than you'd expect, But yeah, it's no, you really kept it moving, man. I'm impressed. I think you're really good at this, and you do a great job.
Thank you. Yeah, I need to give myself more credit.
Not too much, but
yeah, I need to stay humble. Yeah, I need to stay humble. Thanks, Kyle. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm not bad at this. That's true, and I need to give myself more credit. Again, back to that, like I'm not good enough. I think anybody can sit in this chair and do what I do, but in reality, I don't think it's necessarily like that.
Nobody's you.
You are you. But man, thanks so much, dude. Kyle, thanks so much for coming on. I know we've been talking about this for a while, you coming on, and I'm excited to get you more incorporated in some episodes. I mean, you do a hell of a job on the back end. I'm really grateful for everything that you bring to the table for me. You have made things so much easier on me, and it's nice to know that I'm not doing this alone. Because if I was doing this alone, I wouldn't be where I'm at. So thank you so much for all that you do for me, man. It means a lot to me. Words can't describe the gratitude that I feel around you being a part of this and what you've done for me. So thanks so much for now coming on and talking. And dude, I'm looking forward to doing some more episodes with you.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
More to come.
Absolutely.
Love you, dude.
Love you too, man. All right.
What do you think? Still needs to hit that. Oh yeah, my bad.